Everyone, welcome to the modern market, where every day we discuss everything to do with the modern market. That is the crypto market, the NFT market, and how to make some or a lot of money on the internet. Loaded up for discussion today, we have number one, crypto sentiment shot. Red day for memes across the board. Bitcoin is at 57K. ETH's just gone back above 2.5K. Solana looking pretty low from where it's been recently too. We'll get into more of that in a bit. Number two, public egg mint by CryptoKitties team hits a 15x to a 0.13 floor. And X creates the Alexandre Files account to shine a light on the abuses of Brazilian law committed by Alexandre de Moraes. We're going to get into all of that and more. We've got all the latest on price action on crypto and NFTs as well, and some discussion on Yuga Labs CEO's vision for their new experimental division to ship new product fast and fun. We've also got a very special guest today. We got Dog Wiz in the house, founder of the Say Cabal, here with us for our weekly Say segment. Dog Wiz, welcome to the stage, my friend. How are you doing?
GM, B-Check, GM, guys. Happy to be here, man. Excited. Can't wait to get the show going.
Great to have you with us, man. Also, in the co-host seat today, we've got Legendary and Bread back from the Viking adventures in the fjords of Norway. We're ready to get into it, but before we do,
everyone in the audience take notice of that. He bumped me all the way to the bottom. I am now number 3, getting called out on this stuff because I left the show. That's just the kind of person B-Check is.
I gave you the Viking shout out though. Gave you the Viking shout out,
and I love you. So
there we go. Just a reminder before we get into the Viking adventures that this show is not Viking advice. It's not financial advice. This market is very risky and we don't know anything for sure. So please proceed with caution and exercise your own judgment. With that out of the way, Legendary, it's Monday. It's the 2nd of September. How are you doing now that we're in September?
GM, actually, I'd be interested in Viking advice and I would take that from Brad. I'm doing quite well. I'm glad to be back in the main office in Vienna, have the full setup, have the big screen, the roadcast and everything. Yeah. And despite the sentiment being pretty bad in crypto in general, I feel like there's loads of things to talk about that I find pretty interesting. So I'm pumped for today's show.
Yeah.
Are we calling our homes our offices now? Our main office?
Yeah, kind of.
He has multiple offices, Brad. He's got multiple offices. He's a global brand.
Look, I love it. Let's fake it till we make it. I'm gonna start calling my house an office now. The office.
I mean, it's a dedicated office room that I'm only using for that. So
maybe
you're not lying.
Click the in the comments to the show the tweet of your office last week though. That will debunk what people's perception of the global office is.
The London office was a bit improvised. I will admit that.
That's the adjective. Share it if you've got it. Bread, we said at the top, got some Viking advice for us. How was your trip, man? How did it go? What did you do? Should people take your advice? Do they need to do their own research before you share what it means to go on this Viking adventure?
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, I went for a wedding and took my girlfriend with me. She had never been to Norway. I lived there for a few years, so I wanted to make sure to show her like a true Nordic experience, like wilderness experience. So yeah, we just went in the mountains, did some cabin hiking, got some beautiful pictures both with and without our butts in it.
I was going to say, I love your pictures.
Experience. You said you wanted to show her the Nordic experience. Is that part of, is the nudity and the photography meant to be together as part of
that? So that's not a Nordic thing. We just kind of do that everywhere. But she's actually one of the ones that like she pushes me to do that stuff. I always want to do it because of my tattoo. I want to do that with pretty backgrounds or whatever. Then she's like, in inopportune times, she's like, "You need to do it now." Like, fuck it, I'll do it.
Sounds pretty fun. Looking forward to hearing more about that adventure in a bit. But Dog Wiz, you're here with us today. Great to have you with us. One of the first people who kind of started chatting to me as we started exploring the Say community a little bit more. How are you doing? How are you feeling with the Say community grant that you guys received? You must be pretty happy with it.
Yeah, man. I mean, thank you for having me. And yeah, like I'm excited. I'm excited to see what people create. I'm excited for the stuff I'm gonna be creating leading up to Miami Art Basel. And yeah, dude, it seems like the Say network and the Say blockchain is kind of heating up. Even the community is rallying up. We're seeing some NFTs kind of pumping and stuff like that. So we'll see. We'll see.
We definitely like that. And I've definitely enjoyed some of your short form stuff, which has been pretty fun. Like you're doing some fun short form stuff. So if you haven't checked it out, please do. Right.
And frankly, he deserves that shit. He was like on me for getting involved with I think it was you, and then there's another guy. I was in a Say Cabal chat on Twitter, but like,
That's my chat.
Yeah. So that was back in like Friend Tech days. So you've been on the grind.
Love it. Absolutely love the grind paying off. That's what we are 100% for. We want to see that stuff more. Look, let's get into the market. As Legendary said, like on some ways it's a bit quiet, and some ways the sentiment's a bit bad, but there's kind of a lot of interesting stuff to talk to. So let's start with some price action as always, and the headlines from the snapshot, which is pinned up top in the spaces. So starting with the price action, Bitcoin is flat actually in the end. It's 58K. It was as low as 57K just earlier when I wrote the snapshot. ETH is actually up a couple of percent again just in the last few hours at 2.5K. Solana is almost up a percent at $131. In terms of some other meme coins, memes were kind of red across the board though. Like, well, actually now they're up again. Popcat is up 10% on the last 24 hours. Bohm is flat. Mog is up 3%. Mew is up 1%. Pepe is flat. But they're pretty beaten up actually most recently. Getting into the headlines themselves, first headline is, yes, crypto sentiment just feels terrible. It felt important to report on it, and because we want to have a discussion on that today. Red day for memes across the board. Second headline, public egg mint by CryptoKitties team hits a 15x to a 0.13 ETH floor. Some extra information there is that they were an open edition mint by CryptoKitties. The mint was open for a period of 24 hours where you could mint one per wallet at 0.008 ETH. A total of 3,134 NFTs were minted during that time, and there were different tiers as well. But shows that sometimes public mints are completely possible to be profitable. And finally, X creates the Alexandre Files account to shine a light on the abuses of Brazilian law committed by Alexandre de Moraes. This is one of the Brazilian judges who has been kind of going at it with Elon. And we've always said, whilst we obviously focus on the NFT market, the crypto market, and things of that nature, as it relates to the internet and communication on the internet, especially, we'll be following these types of pieces of news, as we did with the CEO of Telegram getting arrested as well. Some notable sales from around the space: Xcopy Rabble sold for 15 ETH, another Xcopy Bangers and Crash selling for 18 ETH, and a Beeple Giga Chad selling for 12 ETH. That's all the price action and the main headlines. Legendary, let's go to our NFT marketplace partner, Mintify, and see what is going on there.
Yeah, let's do it. In terms of the NFTs, it's actually a rather red day. We have, in terms of the majors, the Bored Apes down almost 7%, back to a 12 ETH floor. They lost 13% over the last week. We have Remilio's down as well, 4%. They're down 15% over the last week to a 0.91 ETH floor. Milady's basically down as well, a bit less so, only down 1%, but still down 6% over the last 7 days at a 3.5 ETH floor. Pudgy's actually holding up pretty well, 10.8 ETH floor, down 1% only. Azuki's are flat at 4.88 ETH. In terms of obviously the notable other collections, we have the X, but we're going to touch on them separately, so I'm not going to go to them now. However, another collection that was outstanding to me, the Quirkies, quite like their team, to be honest, and it was cool to see that they're up 14% over the last 24 hours of not a lot of volume, to be honest. It's just 12.6 ETH volume over the last 24 hours. However, it is a positive trend that has sustained for a week, because over the last 7 days, that collection is up a bit more than 17%.
I like that point. One question on that, Legendary. Do you think that's where NFTs are? I saw someone making this point about NFTs, that it's like because of where they are, because they've so oversold or so aggressively sold down, and I think there's kind of an exhaustion of sellers. These things can now actually move up quite nicely on relatively low volume, right? That seems to be my reading of the situation. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, absolutely. They don't take too much volume to move in both directions. And as we had the conversation last week, where we said that there's not too many sellers left, actually, that the people who buy in are not the blur farmers, because that's not a thing anymore. So it's very unlikely that someone gets in and just tries to stay for a 5% pump and then flip the collection. So it seems to allow for a bit more sustainable moves. I think one of the collections where we talked about that were the Pudgy Rods, where we've seen that pump after Luca has said that they're like the most significant generative art collection, obviously jokingly.
Yeah.
And they, on the other hand, just having them up on screen, they are down 4% over the last 24 hours. They are down 20% over the last 7 days. So for them, it actually seems that they have, let's see, the 30-day chart, that they have given back a lot of the momentum on the one hand. But if we extrapolate that and look at it over the last 30 days, they're still up 26%. So I would still say that the moves are more sustainable and not everything gets sold back into the market.
Yeah, excellent analysis. Appreciate that. Brad, what are you seeing on the NFT side? Interested in anything in particular?
Funny that you're mentioning NFTs. Not a single fucking thing, honestly. Outside of my bag, like my bags have been ossified for over a year now. I don't dabble with NFTs. I don't have enough time to go through the mid rares versus rares, whatever. I don't have the time to dedicate into that. I mentioned before, that's why people buy meme coins. If I'm just going to speculate on something, I'm going to buy meme coins to speculate because I can get in and get out. I don't have to, my mental capacity isn't needed outside of just like LOL in out, make the call, right? So NFTs, no, nothing specifically. I'm still kind of aware of it, right? Because I'm still trying to I was trying to work on the protocol to bring some on-chain stuff to Ethereum. So like, I'm aware of it as a service, but as a participant, not my game. My bags are starting to good. Claynosaurs are rising. That's awesome.
Okay. That's fair enough. Maybe we'll check back in with you on the meme stuff, because that probably relates to the bigger discussion we're going to be having today on like why sentiment is so damn bad at the moment. So we'll check back in with you on that. I've got one to bring up, but I want to check in with Dogwiz first. Like, is there anything that's kind of catching your attention at the moment on the NFT side or otherwise?
Yeah, so I actually bought these things called Pudgy Puppets yesterday. I don't know. I've been hearing some things about like, I don't even want to bring it up that much, but like, I see that you guys know, so I'll leave it at that. And then on Say, I actually bought a couple NFTs this weekend. I bought like this collection called Fuckers. They actually hit their all-time high over the weekend of 500 Say, guys. It was almost like enough to buy a meal. Yeah, man, I bought like some cappies and like that's about it.
That's pretty cool. I remember at the start of the year, maybe you could just touch on this quickly before we get into the other discussions for the day and the main headlines, but like there was definitely this blow off moment at the start of the year on Say, right? As it came to NFTs, people definitely got like a bit obsessed with them for a little bit. And then what's been interesting for me to notice is like a lot of that community is still there, still alive, but like, how did the price action, how did the community kind of react to that huge influx? And like, what's the kind of state of the union now for the Say NFT market?
So yeah, I mean, we definitely did have a blow off top back in like March, around there, March, May, and then April. I mean, it was, the sentiment was bad for a couple of weeks, maybe even months. A lot
After
of
that.
after, because a lot of people stayed with holding the bag.
Sure.
So there was a lot of people that were upset, but it seems like that sentiment is kind of rolling and like kind of fading away, and we're kind of going back to like it's pumping kind of sentiment. So hopefully it stays that way.
There's no in between. It's like either it's dead, or
it's either we hate you or we love you. That's it.
Got it. Right. Appreciate that little update on the Say ecosystem and some general thoughts. The one thing I just wanted to bring up to everyone in case they hadn't seen it was this. We talked about it like more than a week ago, I think. Then it kind of went off our radar again. But this Jirasan collection is the one which is related to the Redacted Airways, not Redacted Airways, the Redacted coin, which is doing the flight from Dubai to Singapore, and they're like doing a whole bunch of stuff. They've built a whole bunch of really interesting protocols, and this is the team behind that. And this minted, just think, guys, I just wanted to place this in context. It seems to be so rare these days. It minted at 0.25 ETH like a couple of weeks ago or 10 days ago. It then like pumped to like 0.4, then retraced a bit. It's up at 0.6. So legendary. Are you not noticing this a little bit? Like I'm noticing a little bit like things either minting or selling, and like things are doing 2x off a mint. Like, when did the last time that happened? I can't remember. Can you feel that?
Yeah, definitely. And it's also for the first time that I start to see NFT alpha groups being discussed again. Which NFT, which Discord do you need to have access to? Who has nailed the eggs, the Jira-san, and other mints that have happened? So obviously, a long shot from the craze of 2021, but there's definitely something going. And the sentiment change for me is that people start to look for opportunities and for money plays in NFTs again, which definitely wasn't the case a couple of months ago. It was just memes, memes, memes. And now suddenly we're discussing mints again. We're discussing flips. Yes, not to the crazy extent, but again, a 2 or 3x or even a 15, 16x with the eggs, provided you had the most common tier, is nothing to shy away from.
I agree. I completely agree. So definitely keeping alert to that for the active traders out there. Like, that's definitely something I'm keeping alert to at the moment, just noticing how the attention's flipping and also how the outcomes are actually happening. Like, some capital's being deployed there, and it seems to be working out on an occasion. So there's some appetite for some quality stuff. Let's get into our first discussion point for today, which is around this information which CEO of Yuga Labs shared, Gaga, kind of talking about how Yuga Labs have kind of got this secret, not a secret initiative anymore, because he obviously disclosed it, but this new division at Yuga, which is going to focus on emerging products. We call it the workshop. 13 of our best engineers and product people, no fat, just doers. The key question I want to ask you guys is, what do we think of this? Is this something that such a huge organization needs to be doing? Is it something that we think that's a worthwhile endeavor? They said, we have a deep well of technical talent here that was squandered on trying to swim against the current. I wrote about some of that before. In short, you will never compete in crypto by trying to be some Web2 megacorp roll-up Frankenstein. I guess you're almost talking about themselves in some way as a huge Web2 megacorp. So how do you win? You win by shipping content, tools, and gasoline on chain all the time. Content people love that they can't get anywhere else. The best tools for a community full of builders with cult-like affiliation and degen shit. Brad, want to come to you straight away on this. What's your take on this? I wouldn't say it's a pivot from Yuga Labs, because obviously they're working on a bunch of other stuff as we speak, but it's like creating this division to try to almost be more viral, be more degen, be more like relevant and move with the trends and produce things quickly. And they're quite open that some of this stuff's going to work, some of it's not going to work. I'm not saying everything's going to work, but what do you think is moved to like try to be a bit more experimental?
So, I mean, I think it's good and they have the ammo to do it. It's kind of late in the game to like try to redefine your identity, right? With what they're doing. Like, I don't know, man. Like, for me, your opening line was like, oh, they squandered themselves trying to swim against the current, but like that was always their identity, right? So now they're saying, but they also want to continue to swim against the current, like by being degen, being whatever, counterculture, whatever. So like a lot of that stuff is just not something you can really force. Like, it just kind of comes naturally. And I think whenever you have a now perceived corporate entity, which is what they are in this ecosystem, trying to be counterculture, trying to be whatever, like, I don't know, cat's out of the bag in my opinion. But again, I'm not as tapped in, but just like 1,000-foot view guy that's not super NFT-y, that's how I view that. It's more, it becomes kind of cringe in my opinion.
Interesting take. I actually got a little bit of if I had to put a tinfoil hat on, I've got something to say on this as well, but I'll hold it back first. Legendary, you said you wanted to come in with something first. What's your thinking here?
Yeah, I'll add an additional layer of spice to what Brett just said, because the post starts by saying it's just doers, no fat, hands-on, and it's so fluffy. Like, it doesn't really say anything that they want to do with that, and it's still written in a very, very corporate way, so that you can read through the whole thing, but you have no idea what it actually means. And that kind of plays exactly into the point. Once you lost that counterculture culture and want to go back to that, but you're a corporate already, which you have to acknowledge, it's so hard to find the right language and communication that doesn't come across as cringe. Like, I absolutely see the good intention behind that, but nailing the communication to bridge this gap. You're a massive company. You want to be cool again. Very, very hard to get that done in an organic way.
And I do think it is the better way to exist as a Web3 product. Like I think being native, native is always the thing I keep hearing. Is like because I'm hearing on the media side too. I have people pinging me to like run socials and stuff for their account because like we feel like we've become corporate. We want to be cool again. We want to be native. We want to be whatever. And that's kind of what's going on here. It's these
Fred is the
ossified
intern.
Like, seriously, like, and it's more than one. Like it's several large brands that are like, listen, like we've ossified ourselves. It's like 2017, 2021 things that are like we're kind of feel like we lost touch. We want to be native again. It's the same vibe.
I had a observation or a question on this. I know exactly what you guys mean. What do you guys think of this? I'm just going to share the second part of the conversation. It says, when something doesn't work, we'll kill it with love but no mercy, and we'll ship something new and entirely different. We'll get addicted to the 8 to 12 week product cycles that we practiced in our first year. But to be clear, I don't know if the products that roll out the shop are going to be hits. Seems like they want to build new stuff, do it quickly, do it routinely. I guess the first question is like, what exactly do they mean by product? Is it something that's for the Yuga Labs ecosystem? Is it something that's meant to go become like way more useful to loads and loads more people? But what do you think about this idea? They've obviously raised a hell of a lot of money. I suspect that the investors are underwater on the previous valuation. Do you think that there's a pressure to, when you're looking at what they've been able to produce so far, which is impressive on many levels, the fact that I think there is a resurgence in the Bored Ape IP as it being a proper collectible, I think that is happening, and so that's really cool. But when it comes to like building out the gaming side and those other things, I don't think they are where they wanted to be at all. Do you think there's a pressure to like find something that hits and just rises really quickly, like, and maybe shortening the product cycle gives them an opportunity to take a lot of swings? Like, what's our thought on that?
I think there's massive pressure. Like, abstract away from the Bored Apes, look at a company like Nvidia having the run of their lifetime. It will go up maybe a bit more, maybe a lot more, but at one point the AI hype will die down and Nvidia will establish its price after correction at some level. And of course, there's going to be pressure from investors, from stockholders, shareholders. Go back, do the same thing, repeat that success story. And they will always reference that crazy high that had happened back then. And I think it's the same situation for Yuga Labs, maybe even more extreme, because you had the crazy company valuation, the investments, the NFT prices, the 6-figure airdrops. There's like so many high numbers that came out of that ecosystem that there's so many people who want to apply that pressure and want to relive these old days of glory. And I just think it's going to take them a couple of years until that is going to normalize. And if they're still, and I think they will still be around by then, that this will be just, a curiosity of the past, just how we look back at CryptoKitties and see, oh yeah, actually there was a time where CryptoKitties sold for 600 ETH when ETH was at $300 in 2018 or end of 2018 when that was. And now, there's the Flow blockchain, there's different things, but nobody talks about, let's pump CryptoKitties back to that. Well, I still see that ape talk, that NFT related talk, and it's still too close to the hype. So people still reference that as a point emotionally and financially where they want to go back to, and definitely exert a lot of pressure by doing so.
It's interesting. Interesting discussion. I think that I've probably got more thoughts on this, but we've got to keep it moving today. We've obviously got all of the main headlines coming up in just a little bit, but before we get there, let's hit today's segment of What Are They Saying? We hit the main quotes and trending ideas from the weekend to get some hot takes. This segment is brought to you by the SEIng network, a superfast L1 parallelizing the EVM. They have offered a $250,000 matching pool to support creators contributing to SEIng. Quote number one from Ash Robin on the 15x public mint by CryptoKitty founders. He said, "Isn't it funny how a 3,100 supply public NFT mint at a price of 0.008 ETH each sold out and is now sitting at 0.15 ETH floor? Makes you wonder why the public mint did a 15x overnight, but most whitelist-based projects struggled to gain any traction on secondary." Dogwiz, question for you first. One sentence or one word. Should we dump whitelists and bring back public mints?
I'm not upset about it. I think, the whitelist meta became a thing after, because it was just too many people to kind of mint. So maybe going back to the roots of like no whitelist, here it is. If you like it, mint it. If not, go away. I think it's a good thing. It's nature's healing on that.
I kind of like it. Legendary. Should we dump whitelists and bring back public mints?
I don't think so. I think both are valid and they are a function of supply, demand, and attention. And depending on that outcome, you need to pick one or the other.
I would say dump whitelist, bring back public mints, but more importantly, bring back gas wars. Let's bring back some excitement to this stuff. Quote number 2 from Camel on D20's buyout of Sugartown from gaming titan Zynga. They said, "We really acquired the product we made inside one of the biggest game companies in the world and brought it independent so we're able to operate at the level Web3 requires." Your question, Bread, is it bullish or bearish when Web2 titans enter and then leave the space?
Context on how they leave. If it's just like if they're just divesting from this specific project, but they're still involved. Like I know the old founder of Zynga, I guess he's no longer there, so it doesn't fucking matter, right? If they're totally out of the space, not great, right? We've seen it with a couple of big brands, and Meta did it with Instagram. We had who was the other one? Starbucks, right? Starbucks with their Odyssey, not great when they leave. You would like to see these things retain and build and add value. So I don't think it's ever good unless there are ancillary reasons. It just means that they don't think there's value here and whatever. So basically
Fair
never
enough.
good.
Next quote from Beanie on the crypto index chop. Crypto index chart isn't chop, it's lower highs and lower lows since the March peak and failed June retest. Meme coins had a typical blow off top in early April, all very normal and reminiscent of Bored Apes' other side top in May 2022, which came months after the NFT market peak. Question, Dogwiz, have memes already topped for 2024?
Tough question. I don't think so, but I don't think it's going to be all of them. I think they're going to be like a selected few that really go off,
Okay. Legendary memes.
Majority of memes has topped for this year, but there's probably going to be a higher top next year or later in the future.
I see. Final question. The Say Creator Fund Round 2, our sponsor of today's segment, has attracted $82,000 worth of donations from 13,000 donors with 250K in the matching pool. Dogwiz, you're one of the founders of the Say Cabal who attracted 1.9K in donations. How did you achieve that? And how much do you think you'll get with the Gitcoin matched funding?
How did I get it? I mean, I don't know. I'm on Spaces all the time, and I was kind of shilling it at first. The first 2 weeks I was really relentless and maybe borderline annoying. I kind of like leaned into it. And honestly, I don't know, man. I don't get this quadratic funding method that they're doing. I don't understand it. Too much math for me. But I mean, I hope it's a couple of grand. I don't know. It'd be nice.
That's awesome, man. And actually, that's a really important learning for the people who are out there. There's so many creators. Well, we're creators ourselves. So many other creators in the audience that I can see as well. It's like when it's you doing the shilling, you always think like it's too much, right? Because you're the one that's actually doing it. But if you were to ask other people, they probably hear you like one time out of the 100 times you do it. So it probably is a numbers game. So that's an interesting reflection on that. Look, that was our segment of What Are They Saying? We do it every single week to get the hot takes. Let's get into the headlines finally. Which one are we going to start with today? I think we've got first up on the menu, we've got crypto sentiment. Brad, I think something we've just noticed over the weekend. I don't know if it happened, when exactly it happened. Maybe it happened as soon as you left for holiday, or maybe as you arrived back. Sentiment has tanked on your arrival, Brad, and I would like you to explain what has happened.
Well, we don't know what's happening. I mean, we're all people. We all have our own opinions, right? Yeah, you posted this morning and just reflecting on it. Like, one, obvious boredom, right? I think everything's gone sideways down for whatever 6 months. I know this weekend I posted a picture about Gwei saying it was under 1 on Ethereum, and I was like, that's crazy. And an uptrend / bull market, mid bull, which it depends. There's no definition for a bull market, right? It's just an uptrending market. But people were coming in there like, this isn't a bull. Like, what the hell are you talking about? Like, where are we if like this wouldn't be possible? But man, we're still like everything, the entire TV, or not TVL, but the entire market cap of the industry on the 1 year is up 60 to 70%. If you take out the ETF, it's up 70+%. So like, look, I get it. Like, it sucks. It's not awesome. It maybe have been trending down for the last like month or two. Like even Beanie doing his lower lows, lower highs thing. Like, whatever. It's all about time horizons, but it's a combination of, one, we're getting really fucking bored. Everyone, like, we had the SocialFi meta, and then we had the meme coin meta, and then we had like prediction markets have kind of had their flair, but like there's nothing new for people to go back into. And you're kind of starting to see these little pop-ups of like NFTs are getting people excited again, kind of like starting to experiment. You know, you shared that link with that pump fund on Ethereum. Like, that's not going to be enough to do anything, in my opinion. Like, it's cool, whatever, brings some usage back there. So it's just a common, and then like the ETF flows have been a little underwhelming, right? I think Ethereum was like basically neutral. Like, there was a day where they had no inflows, no outflows at all. Like, it was just everyone, even in TradFi, was despondent with what's going on. They're just like, okay, whatever. So yeah, man, it's just, there's a lot going on, and maybe even like the election is just taking a lot of like energy out of everyone, right? Like, no one's paying attention to sectors. They're paying attention to like this thing, which will dictate sectors. So everyone across the market, TradFi and crypto, are just kind of like sitting and watching, and plus it's summer, so confluence of a bunch of stuff. Summer's here. Elections taking a lot of attention. There's no new narrative. Like, there's a lot of stuff, and it just results in us sitting here looking at each other and what do we do today? Debate about bullshit.
I appreciate the takes. I think, as you say, is a confluence of things. All of them are fairly relevant to the bigger picture. I wanted to present a couple of ideas. One from a tweet, which I don't know if it is accurate, but it kind of doesn't really matter whether it's accurate because it's like the principle behind it, but depending on the numbers. And then also an additional idea I have on top of this. This tweet was shared by Mesoteric. I don't know if these numbers are correct, but it was trying to, I think, allude to the fact that a lot of money has gone missing, like hyper speculative capital via pre-sales, for example. Remember, we had that run where everyone was just throwing money into pre-sales, which they didn't, like, completely random people were launching them and just sending money down the drain. A bunch of money gone to trading bots. 100 million pump funds revenue has just gone past. But I don't know if these are all relevant. Jupiter fees, the celebrity meta that happened for a while, that I think took a bunch of money as well. So there's like a few things where people got hyper greedy and hyper risk on. And then on top of that, the thing that I was thinking that people haven't spoken about as much is like how much capital has got tied up from more people than ever before in these type of angel rounds, where I think, although, look, it's not done democratically at all, because it's not like any person could have got access to them. But for the first time, I think there were more people entering these rounds at like on a KOL round basis. Like, you have your pre-seed, you've got seed, and then people coming in. Like, I know personally, I've got a lot of capital that's tied up, which I can't buy the dip with now because it's tied up in these tokens, which keep delaying their launch. So it's like, if you were to add up all of that capital as well, I think that would be reasonably significant. Brett, do you think there's any merit to like considering this, or do you think that just happens every cycle anyway?
Yeah, just every cycle thing, in my opinion. Like, yeah, I don't have any strong take on it, honestly. It's just,
oh, you've muted.
Oh yeah, I was coming out to say, like, the Solana is dying thing, like all this, like, I feel like we're so devoid of actual takes that everyone is coming to the table with hyperbole, and it's fucking annoying, frankly. Every time something happens, it's blank is dead, blank is dying, blank is gonna flip, whatever, and it's just like nothing ever fucking works that way. So like, yes, I've seen this, and like, of course, mercenary capital is gonna rotate from one ecosystem to another when something pops up. Yes, of course, like there's a hot ball of money that's constantly cycling, but that's always cycling. Just the magnitude of it changes both in the bear and the bull, right? So like, but to say like Solana is dead when there's a shit ton of stuff, like it's owned the entire narrative even before Pump.fun. Although I do have a cool metric that or a graph that I'm gonna have come out in the next, like, I don't know, day. So I have to wait for the fancy top before I post it. But like ecosystems is thriving over there, and it like there's activity both inside and outside of the pump stuff. Yes, a lot of it is like tangential to that, but and like benefits from it. But yeah, man, it's like it's just people making headlines to try to like drum up like controversy, and it's just not the case.
Fair enough. Strong take. I mean, in a way, you said you don't have a strong take on it, but that's like a strong tangent.
I was as a take on the take. I don't have a take on the actual fees portion of that shit and like that conversation, because I don't think it's that big of a deal. Like it's notable, cool, but like to like extrapolate that into X is dying, X is the best, X is whatever. Like it's a take on the meta of people trying to have takes. Like it's a hot take meta. It's been a hot take meta for a while now. Like everyone thinks they have to do it, and maybe the algorithm's pushing that, but I think that's more annoying than anything else.
Fair enough. Legendary, what do you think here? Is the market struggling as a consequence of any of those things? How are you kind of seeing it at the moment?
I don't think that Solana is struggling because of that. I would think if that, what is even wealth extraction? I don't think that this is necessarily wealth extraction. And if those 1 billion, that if you think about the fact that Solana was at $10, so it's essentially it's 100 mil of capital for those people who are in early and probably the more likely ones to be able to afford to even quote unquote lose or have this money extracted. If that would be enough to kill an ecosystem, then quite frankly, I don't think it would have the potential to survive in the long run either way. And on the hot take meta, it's just what the algorithm is pushing. Elon has shared that post saying the strongest thing in terms of your content feed is when you take a post and share it with a friend, because that is when the algorithm thinks you want to see more of that. And he also admitted that they can't differentiate between, oh, I share this with you because I think it's so fucking cool, or I share it with you because it just annoys the fuck out of me. They can't detect that, so they're just going to push more of that, which it actually causes and increases the wording that you have to say, oh, this is the best thing ever, this is dead, this will be dying, and doesn't favor you to say, I think those are the 5 main intellectual conceptual challenges that Solana is facing right now, because this tweet will be just dead in the water.
So talking about the extractive bit, I made a post last week. So like Pump Fund catches a lot of flack for like extracting, right? They're taking a lot of fees, $100 million. And I like, they're considered extractive because of that. And I think it's because I wanted to get the root of that, because thinking on it, it's like, okay, a shit ton of money leaving the ecosystem, going to a singular team. Like, well, what's the difference? Because like we often praise L2s for the amount of fees that they've generated. L2s are just single teams, right? By and large, like there's some that cycle it back, like Arbitrum DAO. Some of the fees go back to the treasury and shit, but like Base has generated a gajillion dollars since whatever. And everyone's like, look at Base. They're extracting so much money. It's fucking awesome. Like it's a business. It's cool. So like for them, it's cool. Why is it cool versus Pump is extractive and it's like a liquidity pool that's dying, right? And so I was trying to get to the bottom of that. Ultimately, I mean, they're not the same product, right? There is I think it's stigma associated with meme coins, but I think it's funny I was trying to find that line, and I think it's funny to see that like one of those things is they're both doing the exact same thing, single team extracting a bunch of money. One is productive, additive, one is extractive, or at least perceived that way.
Yeah, I've said for a while, like I think crypto is full of the biggest socialist capitalists around, in the sense that people really want to make money, but they really don't like it if you make too much money. Like if someone else starts to get too successful, it's just like, hang on a second, we're all pro making money, but not this much. Not at the expense of other people necessarily. And I think that's the way it's perceived, as you say. But ultimately, very, very successful business. They found product market fit. Dogways, final point on this section. What are your thoughts about the general market? How are you kind of looking at it in general? Are you like actively trading? Are you more like buy and hold? What's your strategy?
So as the crypto market as a whole, I'm kind of buying spot right now. NFTs, like I said, I just bought some ETH NFTs last night. First time in like months. I'm buying some SEI NFTs here and some Solana NFTs, but not a lot. I do see the interest there, so I am kind of keeping tabs. I wanted to pose a question to you guys, and if it's, I don't want to take too much of the time of the show, because we had an interesting conversation in one of our spaces with a specific project called WeBump in SEI, which were pretty much the first launchpad. They created all of pretty much the source code for everybody to fork out of, called Lighthouse. And, they use that as their like, well, if you want to use and mint with us, you have to give us all whitelist. So
Oh.
people right now are very upset at that. Like, oh, they were very extractive and stuff like that. So like, my point of view in that was like, well, you were kind of there first. You created this product that helped everybody mint and pretty much potentially caused the say NFT little bull run that we have back in like the start of the year. But people are upset that they made a lot of money from it. Do you guys think that's like hey, you shouldn't have done that, you should have done it for free, or like it's okay?
I mean, I'm kind of with, I think I'm with Brad in the end of the final point that he made. Like, these businesses exist to make money, and there'll be an element of where there'll be, sometimes there's a period of time in a business where you have to like actually be a bit more cooperative and sacrifice on some of the financial in order to, like, I don't know, grow your brand, grow your presence. But like at some point in time, it's time to cash in. And if you have a working product or service that people really, really enjoy and like, then of course you should get paid for it, and you should get paid for it as much as possible as the market dictates. Like, I'm pretty pro that. Legendary, I don't know if you have a final reflection before we move on.
No, very much agree with you. I have nothing of value to add to that.
Good stuff. Interesting conversation on the market there. Let's get into this new NFT mint then, Legendary. What is going on? This was a public mint. I'm sure people will be interested to find out, like, what on earth happened that meant that people could mint something for so cheap and then it go to 0.15 ETH so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. We are talking about the CryptoKitties and the new collection, the eggs. And I think it's actually a very relevant piece of news because CryptoKitties have been a very significant collection. Maybe a bit of historical context before we get into what just happened. CryptoKitties created in 2017, actually the first collection to use the ERC 721 standard, the standard that we know for NFTs. A fun fact on that the company behind that, Axiom Zen, they received 12 millions in funding to do that, which if you compare it to the funding rounds these days, seems like a very, very small number. The idea was you can breed the CryptoKitties, you can create new CryptoKitties by doing so. Later on, the creator of CryptoKitties went on to form Dapper Labs, which became very well known for NBA Top Shot. And to understand a bit more of the hype that CryptoKitties had back then, just a couple of stats on that, because it's important to understand in the context of the public mint that there was, where we have only a collection of 3K eggs, total of 140,000 players. However, active players over the last 3 months, 545 over the last month, 264. So basically, more than 99% of that community went dormant. And at its peak, and that peak was very early on. This is a news article from September. I'm sharing this on screen for the people watching us on video. 2018, back then you had record sales for a CryptoKitty for 600 ETH. ETH was around $300 back then, so roughly 170K for that CryptoKitty. Just to put it into reference with the CryptoPunks, if you go to the all-time chart and you go to September 2018, punks were like between a 0.1 to 0.25 ETH floor. So
wow.
All the attention back then was on CryptoKitties, and punks absolutely did not matter. So what has happened is that CryptoKitties came out of this basically dormant phase, wanted to put some more life into the company, into the collection, and came up with this egg collection that, again, was this public mint. There's not a lot of details revealed on that. They had posted a little trailer that shows some of the interactions with the NFT that can be had. Obviously, there's a lot of speculation going on, and this is a post by TMA 420 that breaks down some of the relevant info. Just to recap on that, it was a 24-hour open mint. You could mint one per wallet at a 0.008 ETH price. A bit more than 3K have been minted in 3 tiers: common, uncommon, and rare ones. With the rare ones, there's only 98 of them, sitting at an almost 1 ETH floor. And if we head over to the collection, they are currently sitting at a 0.16 ETH floor, so actually went up even more, and have done that on, quite frankly, a fair amount of volume, 240 ETH volume. Just compare that with some of the other collections that we've been talking about. We said that Quirkies are up and that meant a 12 ETH volume over the last 24 hours. So there's significant interest going into that. Going back into the reason for the collection, TMA has been exploring that pretty well. And this is why it had that historical context that the founders went on to found Dapper Labs, and Dapper Labs then ultimately had the Flow blockchain. And that collection is obviously backed by Dapper Labs, and it is about to launch EVM compatibility. And the speculation kind of is that they try to time this with the Echo collection to get more reach on the timeline, become more relevant, and just basically line it up with their incoming EVM update for the Flow blockchain next week, which means obviously EVM compatibility with the Ethereum virtual machine, that all the smart contracts from ETH can be integrated. And they definitely, and the founder has been posting about that a couple of times, want to bring back the fun of breeding and minting the kitties. So it seems to be a very good timing for a marketing campaign, a new collection like that.
That is a great analysis and breakdown. As soon as you mentioned this new EVM update, that makes a lot of sense. Like if they can manage to get some attention onto that straight away, that seems to be the logical explanation. But appreciate that update. We've got a couple more things to get into, so we'll keep it moving. Legendary, appreciate that. Let's get into the Web3 Roundup first before we hit the final headline. As always, this is in the snapshot, which is pinned up top to get you up to speed with everything else that's happened in space in the last 24 hours. Number one, as we mentioned already, Pump.Fund surpasses $100 million in revenue. Next, Trump plans to launch World Liberty Financial to connect users to decentralized finance best tools for secure, in their words, high-yield crypto investments. We raised some questions about that the other day. Seems to be coming, whether we like it or not. Next, SEC warns FTX against paying creditors with stablecoins. Uniswap changes its PFP to a pudgy penguin, hinting towards a partnership. Pudgy penguins crushing with the partnerships at the moment. Gaming titan Zynga exits Web3 by selling Sugartown to D20 Labs. As we mentioned, Yuga Labs CEO Gaga reveals the workshop, a new division to focus exclusively on emerging products. And finally, this was maybe a funner one to end at the start of the weekend. Bloomberg article suggests that crypto owners are more likely to have psychopathic traits, which, after knowing everyone here, I would probably agree with.
Did you see the expanded part of that?
I did read a little bit more. What did you think?
No, it's just like it was pretty cherry picked, right? Because like it also showed that like crypto owners are supposed to be smarter, more handsome, cuter, all that stuff too. But they didn't call that out.
It didn't. Not as good of a headline. Good stuff. Look, final headline is this stuff to do with X, because pretty huge revelation, I think this is. And the reason why we talk about this kind of stuff, this is kind of in the battle between X and Brazil. We talk about this stuff because it affects online communication. We are online communicators. We spend a lot of our time here on X and elsewhere. It's an incredibly important development to see how these battles kind of take place. So in the last 24 hours, I believe, or maybe 48 hours or so, X created the Alexandre Files X account to, in their words, shine a light on the abuses of Brazilian law committed by Alexandre de Moraes, the Brazilian Supreme Court Justice, who has just ruled. So they ruled two things. Number one, regulators should block X access for Brazilians. And two, the users who access the site with a VPN should face daily fines of around $8,000. So there's two ways people have perceived this. Some have viewed the move as very autocratic and anti-democratic and anti-free speech, whereas some on the other side have called it an important statement of national sovereignty against a non-compliant company. Either way, it's clearly an escalation in the conflict between X and Brazil. And I think one of the interesting tweets we had replied to us the other day to say, like, wars won't be fought in the future in the same way as they did in the past. And it's really interesting to see this conflict between like a nation state versus X, the company now. So where do I stand on this? After I read into it, I can actually see down the middle on the issue in some ways, but there is some crucial information missing at the moment. And I think we will find out as we follow the case. So this is what we know so far. According to The Guardian, which is a more left-leaning source, admittedly, Alexandre de Moraes had been trying to force X to take down far-right voices as far back as January 2023 in the capital, Brasilia, but Elon resisted on the grounds that he wanted to protect free speech. But the reason for Moraes' latest specific action, explained by the Financial Times, is tied to a requirement under the country's civil code, where X was supposed to appoint a legal representative for the company in Brazil, but missed the deadline. So there are a few things which my takes hinge on. Two key questions. First, what do far-right voices mean with regard to January 2023? In every jurisdiction around the world, and I think crypto Twitter is kind of losing the perspective on this, and I kind of specialized in this as a media litigator at a big law firm. In every jurisdiction around the world, free speech is a qualified right, not an unqualified right, which exists in every circumstance. If the content published on X broke no laws, it should have been allowed to stay up, and Musk would be right to stand firm and push back on attempts to take it down. So you need to do a thorough investigation of that content to decide on that. The second question would be, what will be revealed by this new account? This is what I think will be pretty exciting to follow in the next few days and weeks. Like, who knows what kind of data X has on what the Brazilian politicians and courts have been communicating with X? And I guess we'll see what evidence there is of unlawful requests, if there were any. My take based on the facts, and there's a couple kind of more factual things, is that it would seem a bit ridiculous to me in isolation to miss a deadline for appointing a legal representative for Brazil. Like, usually this is a really routine, almost administrative task for companies. And so in the absence of all other facts, it'd be pretty dumb. It would be a dumb hill to die on as a reason to leave a country. But I guess there's a lot more going on here. So that would probably be the point. And also based on the facts, I think an 8K VPN fine for anyone trying to access X seems pretty egregious. And I feel like if you wanted to take down a website for non-compliance, it'd probably be best targeted response to the company, not the specific people of the country. In any event, in conclusion, it looks like we're going to see all kinds of court politician communications with X in the coming days and weeks. So much of what we think about this case, and more broadly how we think about speech online, might be shaped by these disclosures coming up. So that's the lowdown on that. Legendary, I want to come to you first, and then Dogwood, would love to hear your thoughts as well. Legendary, what's your take?
I think that's a fantastic summary of what's going on, and the caveats are exactly the right ones to make, that we absolutely need to wait to see what additional data X respectively Elon has and is going to share as part of that. It's interesting, however, because I agree with most of the points, I have nothing to add on them. But if you look at the bigger picture and look at Elon specifically, it's interesting how he's shaping up to be one of the most, if not the most important human in terms of political and global influence of our generation. Obviously has a stake in the US elections, is getting involved into politics in other countries, and has more reach than entire countries, has more reach than entire governments. And this is insane to think of a perspective from 50 years ago, 100 years ago, that a single person can have more reach than an entire nation state, and is putting that reach to use how he sees fit and fights for what he thinks is right or what serves his interest. And this is something that's unprecedented in human history. And that will be interesting to see how this will play out. Because if you look at a company as a monopoly, you would say, okay, this company needs to be split up. It has too much influence. But Elon is a person. You can't split him up, but he's definitely the most influential person when it comes to that. And the acquisition of X has massively added to his reach. So I will be very curious to follow in what other political arenas he will get involved, or geopolitical global arenas he will get involved over the next years. Even in the Brazil case, he said that he is thinking to give free Starlink access to people in Brazil so that they can access X without having to use a VPN and without being able to be tracked. And just that alone, that he has the power to give basically internet to people in a way that is still obviously in conflict with the law, but makes it more difficult to track down and apply this VPN fee or fine of 8K a day is insanely powerful.
Yeah, pretty interesting. Doggers, would love to hear your thoughts on this. I appreciate your kind of you're on video. People might be able to tell you've got a bit more of a Latin connection here. From that perspective, like, do you have any like additional perspective, knowing maybe those, maybe not Brazil specifically, but knowing those regions better? What's your kind of take on this situation?
So I try to stay away from like these kind of takes, to be honest. But I do believe in like free speech. You know, I'm from Colombia, and in Colombia, you can't really have like if you speak, you can say whatever you want, but there will be consequences, right? If you speak about the government in a bad way, you might, something might happen to you or something to your family. So I do like to consider myself an advocate of free speech. And you're right, Elon has so much legendary. You're right. Elon has so much reach that it's like it's a person. You can't, how can you control one person? So I think it's like really, really interesting to see that play out. But anything about that's regarding free speech, I'm on board.
Interesting, man. I appreciate that kind of more personal perspective. But guys, that is the end of the show today. Hope you had a great time. As always, thank you to my legendary co-hosts, Legendary and Bread. Dogwiz, appreciate you for joining us, man. Founder of the Say Cabal. Anything else you want to just let us know about what you guys are up to, where we can keep up with what you're up to?
Yeah, I mean, you can follow me at dogwiz_ETH or the Say Cabal at Say Cabal. We're doing a couple things for, content wise leading up to Art Basel. Art Basel, we're trying to throw a couple events, to kind of promote Say and kind of, put our stain that we're kind of here now. I think, like you said, we have a strong community. We kind of did the opposite. We did like NFTs first instead of like the infra and DeFi. And I think that's what led to like such a strong community to kind of rally up. So yeah, man, that's about it. I'm not really trying to show myself much.
That's fun, man. I was actually just looking at Miami flights for Art Basel. So I'll let you know if I'm going to be in town.
I'll
But
see you
guys,
there.
thanks so much for joining us. As always, we do this every single day, Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. Eastern time for 1 hour. We're live on X. We're also live on YouTube on video if you prefer that. And we post to Apple and Spotify podcasts too. Have a wonderful day. Take care. We will see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.